How you going, guys? Dean from the Adeptus Victorium here to show you the first three prototypes of the new ETC-inspired tournament terrain that the Adeptus Victorium circuit is going to be using, and also leasing out to other tournaments outside of the circuit to be used as well. So expect this terrain to pop up all over Australia. So basically what we've got here is three test schemes, just to show the diversity that you can get whilst using the same sort of functional terrain, but you can get three completely different styles, and also to show off some of the different levels of density that you can expect. So like this is one of the city fight boards, which would be one of the really dense, heavy sort of terrain tables. Yes, these terrains are tall enough to hide at night, for those of you who are asking. But yeah, so basically this is an example of the heaviest of heavy tables. Fuckloads of terrain, you'll be getting cover everywhere, but there are still areas where there is no cover. So if you want to place an objective in the middle of that road, your opponent has to come out of their cover in order to hold it. So that's an example of a very dense, very heavy table. Then we go on to this one, which is a desert sort of theme, and obviously it's a much lighter table. Still got the same concept of big areas where there is no terrain, and then areas where there's sort of clusters of terrain. These are all following the ETC player pack table layout guidelines. Fuck, that was a mouthful. So this is the sort of stuff that the pros play on, essentially. The dimensions of each terrain piece matches their player pack. The layout of what terrain goes where matches their player pack. The number of ruins per table, all of that sort of stuff, it's all perfectly aligns with what you expect on a top level competitive game. So things like this table's set up so that if you get corner deployment, you've got a ruin in this corner, a ruin in that corner, some smaller ruins in these corners. If you get hammer and anvil, you've got, ruins on this side, ruins on that side. If you get Dawn of War, so there's a little bit of terrain everywhere. Vanguard Strike, obviously, you get these corners. So it's very well thought out with the terrain placement, and this terrain will have, that's the specific layout for this specific table. And it'll always be set up that way. And basically we've got 24 tables, each one with their own specific layout. So you never have to worry about your opponent moving the terrain before the game or anything like that. There's set layouts that it has to be. And then this last one, an ice planet, which is an example of a lighter table, where it's got three big ruins down the center and a small ruin in each corner. And there'll be more craters on this. I'm just working on the craters at the moment. There's a whole stack of them over there. But yeah, so that's essentially what we've got for now. And we've got big plans to jazz these up even further to make them visually appealing. For example, this snow planet, I'm going to get a bunch of guys over and we're going to freehand a bunch of Space Wolf runes on all of these buildings and paint wolf iconography and stuff to make it look like Fenris. So there'll be a really strong Space Wolf theme to this one, This one here, we might put some Adeptus Mechanicus Mars pattern logos and shit on the buildings. Even on the actual boards themselves, we might put in some, icons and shit. And then these city fight ones, we're going to do, one of them's going to look like an orc warband has run through it, and they've, tagged Wa written on all the buildings, and Umi's this way, and just, stuff like that. We're going to make a few that look like they've been corrupted by chaos. So think Nurgles come through and they've, painted things and prayers to the gods. There'll be a corn themed one that's just literally going to go fucking spastic with blood splatters on the table, just so that no matter what table, if there's 8 tables that look the same overall scheme as that, each one of the individual 8 tables is going to have its own unique feel, while still being 100% functional and effective terrain. So yeah, that's an example of 3 of the tables that we're working on. Hopefully by the end of the week, I'll have all 24 painted. All of the terrain is painted. I've just got to literally do the baseboards and finish off those craters. We're going to do some things as well just to spruce them up a bit. Like I'm going to buy a pack of like those plastic crystals and stick them all over these and, you know, on the floor in there. Just stuff like that to make it so that these buildings are obviously fucking snow. You know, these desert ones, we're going to get some vines like creeping up the sides of the buildings and shit. And I'm going to get some like aquarium plants and just attach them to craters. So they're more in less of a crater, more of like a swamp area. And then for the city fight one, barrels, crates, that sort of stuff. Down the track, we're going to add like onto the tops of these pieces. There'll be crates and ammo crates and shit. Just so that it's got a bit more visual appeal. But yeah, the ultimate goal for these tables was to have it so that they are functional and are easy to store. And I'll give you an example right now of what I mean by easy to store. Alright, so what we have here is a container, and this is how the tables will be stored permanently. And basically what it is it's one little 9-inch cube that contains all of the terrain required for a specific table. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the table out like so, take an aerial photo of it so you know the layout, and then I'm going to print that photo, stick it to the top of the container. So all of the terrain required to make that table is inside the tub, and you have a layout. And then basically what you do is you can lift off that lid, and that's all your terrain. All of the terrain you'd require to make the most dense table is in there because they all slot into each other. Like one of those little Russian dolls. And that way, depending on what event you're running, if you go, okay, Dean, I need 12 tables, I'll be like, yep, sick. I'll just bring 12 of these tubs. If you need 24, I'll bring 24. If you need 13, I'll bring 13. And that way, when it comes to transport, we only have to transport the exact amount we need because there's one tub per table. Whereas I know, like previously, we've used these big black fuckers, and that holds 3 tables worth, which is not too bad. But it means if you only need, say, you need 14 tables, well, it's like, well, I guess we have to bring 15 tables worth. Whereas this way, it's perfectly neat, and you also know at the end of the day when you're packing it up, you literally just grab your tub out from underneath your table, and off you go. So yeah, that pretty much covers it. I'd love to hear any questions you guys have, or if you have any ideas for some cool stuff that we could paint on the sides of these ruins and stuff, just to spruce them up a bit, or any ideas you have, because obviously we want to make this terrain functional for competitive 40k, but we also want it to be pretty and immersive and make it look as cool as possible. So yeah, hit us up in the comments below and let us know what you think. And as always, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you at the next Adeptus Victorium event.